Hi there. It's Smiley with Mustard Seed Social Live. And today I want to talk about the Facebook ad setup changes that need to be made in order to comply with Apple updates that are just around the corner. Okay, so today we're going to go over this in 3 steps. First, we're going to talk about what the Apple updates are. Then we're going to talk about domain verification. And finally, I'm going to give a real world example because I think it helps to provide an example to pull everything together. All right, so let's dive right in. First of all, what are the Apple updates? So you've probably seen this in the news. Facebook and Apple are facing off regarding Apple's decision to allow their users, Apple products users, to opt out of Facebook tracking. This hurts Facebook a little bit because that data does help optimize, make Facebook ads work better. So basically, Facebook is forced to comply with this, and it has set up 2 processes so that it can work with Apple and do less tracking. So there's still going to be some tracking, but it's going to be much, much less. So Facebook is asking people who are advertising to do 2 processes. One is called domain verification, and we're going to go over that today. And the other is aggregated events. I feel like whenever people say this, they say aggravated events, like they're aggravated, but it's aggregate, like to put together. Okay, so that's our first point. This is what's going on. Apple updates are coming in April. Facebook's trying to comply with them. I've mentioned a couple places, but I'll just say again, I do suggest starting on these right away. It can take from days to weeks to make these updates, depending on how many online assets you have, really, or just various factors. But I know it took me a couple days for a relatively simple setup. So, and then the other thing is, particularly with domain verification, some people are finding that they have to do that now to run ads now. Okay, so we'll talk more about the impacts, but I'm going to go into next domain verification. Okay, so domain verification is simply making sure your website is like legit, hashtag legit, right? So it's just it's just Facebook confirming that you own that website. It's tied to you. It's a way for Facebook to confirm that, this is not a shady website. So Facebook already had this process, but they now are requiring this process for people who are running ads that go off the platform. So basically, that's most people, right? You have an ad that's, even if it's collecting just contact information, it's nice to go to a landing page that's off your website, or people are going to buy products, buy services. So this pretty much applies to anybody who's going to run an ad, even like a boost post. I was talking to people about this, and yes, even with a boost post, you're putting, even though you're only spending $5, if you're sending it off the platform and it's under ads, which kind of get a higher level of scrutiny, you're probably going to end up needing to do this domain verification too. So now, in terms of how to do domain verification, I'm going to show you the setup. However, I'm going to go over this first to give you a framework. There's actually 3 options when it comes to domain verification. One is the meta tag, adding a tag, which is like a bit of code on your homepage, and that's the easiest option. I recommend that. If you can't do that, like say maybe you have some plugin on your homepage like me, and it's not as easy to get into that layer and stick in a code. There's also DNS verification. That's where you can go to your domain, your host, like GoDaddy, Namecheap, and ask them to stick a text record in there. And I think that also applies to HTML upload, which is the 3rd option, which me no do. I did not do that one, but looking at it, it looks like something that your host would help you with. So yeah, those are the three options, and I will show them on screen in a minute. But what I want to clarify, I want to make a couple of clarifications first, because first of all, the domain verification you can't do for third-party apps. So a lot of people use these landing pages like ClickFunnels, and I use Groove Pages. So you can't get those verified. So essentially, if you were to leave those alone, you couldn't run ads to them. So what you have to do is verify your main domain. So for example, my main domain, my website is Mustard Seed Social, and then put those landing pages as subdomains. And then you don't have to do anything with these. They're verified under the umbrella of your main website, like Mustard Seed Social. And an example of a subdomain would be 7 things dot, Mustard Seed Social. Okay, so that's one thing. There are some apps that have moved quickly to create a plugin so that you can do this domain verification in the app. Like, for example, WordPress. So you don't have to actually go into Facebook Business Manager, but you can do it through WordPress. But that's really advanced. Like, ClickFunnels doesn't have that. Groove Pages doesn't have that. So you're going to have to do the work yourself, and most likely it will involve a web developer at some point. So that's just a heads up. Okay, so that's points 1 and 2, what the Apple updates are, and then what domain verification is. Now I want to show you what this looks like in real life. So with any luck, I will share my screen and all will be well. Okay, great. So here's here we are in Business Manager. Business Manager holds your accounts. So what I did to get to this particular view is I went to the settings wheel and pressed it in order to get to this page. Which one am I going to show? I think I will show, oh yeah, this one. I will show mine because I'm not quite done with the process, so it'll be clearer. So you go, you select the account, and then you go to brand safety, click domains. So to add your website, you just click add, type in your website, add domain, and see, that's as far as I got for my own website. And so when you get here, then this is where you get to choose. Oh, I'm going to do the meta tag. I'm going to put a code, and then immediately after you drop the code on your website, you can verify. There's DNS, which you put it in your text records of your website. You have to wait a while before you hit verify. And then there's this option also, HTML file upload, which I suggest you do hand in hand with your host or web developer. Okay, so that's relatively straightforward. This is understanding how this works. This framework can be very useful. So I wanted to show what I've been able to do for my clients. So I was able to get them verified. And so they're just listed as a domain. But what I had to do was I actually had to, well, let me explain the situation. So they have multiple businesses, and so they had a couple of landing pages, but no website for this business. So what had to happen was we had to create a WordPress website. So with them, we created this in WordPress because WordPress has free websites. And then I had to get this hosted by their, by GoDaddy. For them, it was GoDaddy. Your host is like GoDaddy, Namecheap. So I could have gone to WordPress, but I went to Go because he was already you already have a host, right? And sometimes WordPress hosts. But either which way, when WordPress hosts, it takes off that .wordpress.com extension. So that's what we wanted. So we did that. And then I concurrently went through this process and got that exact domain verified. So then this was set up. So basically this was set up as the home base, the main domain, and it was verified. So then the process became how do I get this landing page as a subdomain? So it was hosted by Groove Pages. And then we moved it over to MarylandHousePartners.com by talking to both the landing page provider and the host, and then it was passed over, but it needed to become a subdomain. The setup had to be, this in the preface, 7ways.MarylandHousePartners.com. So now that it's a subdomain, it falls under the main domain. And so I don't need to go through any process for this because this main page has been verified. This falls under the main umbrella. So that's really cool. And the only thing left is that I do have this security certificate that had to be bought from the host, actually. So not only after fixing the domain, but this had to be bought because for most people, this will just show up as a 404 page, like don't go to this page until the security certificate is purchased, and it takes a couple of days to go into effect. Cool? Okay. So that is an overview of the changes, what the Apple updates are, what domain verification is, and then also like some real world examples. Hopefully that helps. And in the future, we'll be going over aggregated events. So just a recap of why we might want to do this now. It's because if you want to ensure continuance of ads that are going off the platform, this process has to be done. The changes don't take effect until April, but it could take days or weeks to set this up. It depends on how complex your own set of online assets are. Mine are actually not that complex, but I still had to talk with an independent web developer outside of my already current providers. And then even some people need to do domain verification now just because their ads won't even work now without it. So there's that. And then finally, let's see, if it isn't set up correctly when the Apple updates happen, then those ad sets will just shut down and you can't use them later. They are permanently shut down from what I've read. I'm like, Facebook keeps giving different scenarios, like, in this scenario it will be shut down, but every time I read it, it's like the ad set will be shut down and you can't use it anymore. So that's a bit inconvenient. So it's better to just get this set up correctly now. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, and I will sign off and I will see you in the comments. Thanks.